for this family. So we did it anyway. 2 weeks later, she came into the office, distraught, saying that her whole ceiling has fallen down. And literally water, when I'm looking at the pictures and so on, literally the water's dripping down and so on. And then again, I've reported it to the necessary people to try get some help. And it was a push and a shove to get it sorted. But we got it at the end, we made sure that someone from the local authority went out, assessed the situation, and then got hold of the landlord and so on, and managed to stop the leak and eventually get it repaired. If we wasn't there, thinking deeply on it, I was just wondering, what would have she done? They were new to the country. They've been living here since the lockdown for about 2 years, and they didn't know anyone else. And the only people they do know for help are people who are agents and who sort of have to charge for the time, because obviously they probably don't get any government funding and so on. But in general, she had access to no services whatsoever. And then another one as well, once we started visiting some factories, we discovered that her entire whole factory, about 60 people, did not receive their wages for about 4 weeks. And they relied heavily on receiving their funds weekly, as they rely on that, to pay the bills and buy the food and so on. So, we got involved and, we managed to speak with the factory owner, the brand that was, giving them the orders, managed to, get them all together with the help of the unions as well, with a lot of help and advice from the unions. And we managed to get a resolution where, we got the 60 workers paid. But then that problem went on. And then we stayed involved. And now we sort of come into a final resolution where, everything should be up to date. But yeah, I think what it led to separately, nothing to do with us. The factory is sort of has decided that they can't run financially, and they're going to be closing down. But then we are now working with the cohort of workers to help and support them going further with all of their welfare rights, and also if they even need help, looking for appropriate factory, someone who would be honest and pay their right dues.
That is quite a regular occurrence. What you are talking about, that incident, what he's gone through, Priya, it happens across the. You're just talking a tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Priya, somebody sent a message in here saying that the Highfield Community Centre, that they know it as, started in 1970. 74.
Opened in 1974.
Well, they've just lost the voucher, haven't they? So the free voucher that I had offered, only one chance you had, and they've blown it.
That should have a go now. 1974.
I think you're too late. too late. 1974.
The Highfields Community Association was formed in 1972 as a response of the then recently arrived migrant communities from the Indian subcontinent and the Caribbean to find a place where they could have their social meetings and gatherings. And they, in discussion with the city council of that time, it was agreed that the old Highfields Youth and Community Centre would be built as part of the St. Peter's estate redevelopment. And that came into being in 1974.
So this community centre, Highfield Community Centre, was always there for support, structure, network for the community. And in 72, when the Ugandan Asians came here, well, in those times, there was no Highfield Community Centre. Everything was talked about. It was in its infancy. And for those of you who were not born then, because it's 50 years, it's almost 2 generations. And at that time, how many years is one generation, Tarek?
I think about 25 years. I think you're about right.
You reckon?
25, pushing to 30 now, I think.
Mm. Okay. There we go. So the reason is that many people today don't identify with 50 years ago. And one listener said to me, 50 years ago, Zed, I can't remember what happened last week. and this is what I'm up against, right? So at that time, you were just looking for a friend of a friend of a friend who knew how to fill a form in,
Yeah.
right? Because you had to fill a lot of forms in. So the man who could fill forms in, who was he? He was somebody who was a teacher in his last life in Uganda,
Yeah.
or somebody who was in admin over there, and he's the one who had a queue outside his house,
Yeah.
right? So you'd go there, you'd stand in a line, and he'd fill your forms in,
Yeah.
right? So the form filler was the champion
Yeah.
in 1972 when we came into the city. So at that time, the area where you are, Highfields, was pretty diverse, right? And today, we see that one listener quite rightly pointed out that we are tribalistic in the sense that we live in different communities, different areas. So each area in the city is one community because our mindsets are set like that, Tariq. So we don't go there, they don't come here,
Yeah.
right? And one guest quite rightly pointed out that this cannot continue because we have this week to be EDI. And if we want to put the D back into diversity, we need to engage all corners of our city, right? 400,000 is not a lot of people. Not a lot at all. The state of Gujarat is 86 million people.
Wow.
It's more than the country England. How's that?
Yeah, these figures are remarkable, really, because this city has grown quite a lot in the last 40 years that I've been here. And the composition of the population of Highfields has changed as well during that time. The diversity has continued, but it's a different mix of people now. And one of the things we've recently done at the center is to reflect our mission statement. We talked about the 3 E's. We've engaged graffiti artists to Graphworks to do some murals on the external walls. I don't know that if you've seen those murals, but here's one of those, the 3 E's, enhancing lives, empowering communities.
Wow, that is...
And enterprise for all.
Well, that is fantastic. And did that cost to do that?
Oh, yeah, it did. I'll tell you a little story about that. And this is our strap line at the center, celebrating diversity and unity in the community. And that's on the rear wall. Now, to get this work done, we are approached by somebody at the council last year that there was a possibility of getting some murals painted on our walls, external walls, and we said, yeah, we'd be interested, but we'd like to have some involvement in what those murals represent. And they said, well, if you're wanting to do that, you'll have to commission them directly.
Are you saying to me it's my way or the highway?
Something like that. So we had to say, no, we'll be fine. We'll speak directly to Graphworks and work with them about the themes that represent the center and the area and so on. And so over a period of months, we went through a consultation process with our users, our youth club members. We did it at the festival last year. And arising from that, the designs were drawn up. And since they were finally put up towards the end of last year, we've had very, very positive feedback from local people.
I think definitely, Priya, I'm due for a visit there, aren't I?
Oh, absolutely. It's you know,
after Ramadan.
We'd welcome you very much. We've got certain key events coming up at the centre in the next few weeks. Sunday, 1st of May, is the annual May Day rally.
Hey, that's Eid Day, isn't it?
Yes, it could be Eid Day or it could be the last day of Ramadan as well. Yeah.
So definitely I need to come over there and engage with you and see a lot of wonderful work you're doing there, because I note that even Trek has moved into your building.
They have.
Yeah.
I mean, when we experience that sudden reduction in our income, we had to take a decision that going forward, we will not be able to provide all of the services ourselves directly. So we would make space for other local agencies to move in.
Now, are you aware of the pipeline of diversity?
Pipeline.
Of diversity.
No, that I don't actually know.
Right. I need you to get your notepad out and write it down. Right. The pipeline of diversity is, if we're going to add the D back into the word diversity, right, a big D. I'm not talking about a small d. Right. We need to, the pipeline, draw a pipe like a plumber's pipe. Yes. And then do a drop down of 20 community organizations, Priya, or charities. Yes?
Yeah.
Now, what we need to do, we earmark them. Tarek, in your head right now has flashed 5 people that you know, 5 organizations or 5 charities.
That we can join
Then-
the pipeline, yeah.
Then on that pipeline, we drop down. We do a drop down. On that drop down, we need many commercial enterprises to put their name down there. What do we need them for, Priya?
To provide the wherewithal, the resources.
This is what we're talking about, Priya. This is what we're talking about. The 4 M's. Yes?
Absolutely.
Then these organizations have to deliver, enhance goodness into the community, right? Now, the challenge is, can they go cross community? Because these are 20 diverse organizations from all the communities that you know in the city, right? And what's happening? That is when we are putting the D back into the word diversity. Now, when we are almost 40% with young people, that is our target market. If we are going to build for your grandchildren, your children and your grandchildren, then we need to go for that market. Are you with this, Priya? Can you develop this more?
Yeah, FABL is a reflection of just what you've been saying, Zed. We're funded for that project jointly by trade unions and clothing brands. Now, that's the first major piece of work that I've been involved in, where private sector firms have contributed significant funding to develop a particular piece of work. What would be welcome is if we can get other companies, particularly Leicester-based companies, engaging in making some of the provision, not just in terms of this particular situation to do with garment workers or fashion workers, but across the length and breadth of needs in an area like Highfields or Greater Highfields, whether that's working with young people, whether that's adult learning,
So many areas.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, this is where we are making a difference. Now, Radio Leicester are running some awards for making a difference. People that you know, individuals or organizations, they have different awards. And they want to acknowledge them. They want to give them an award. And yesterday, they called in. We had a good natter with them. And we are in partnership and building our communities together. So everyone has a role to play. Everyone has to come on board and give their time and their wisdom. All of us are capable to do that, right? Now, if all these diverse communities come together, we do not want to go back to 50 years ago, right? Our communities are changing every decade. We have influx of economic migrants, whatever reason that we have refugees come in here for, we have to adapt to change. Our mindsets have to change completely, that how we are going to deal with them, because when the Ugandan Nation came, at that time in 1972, there were black people, there were brown people. The brown people were divided by 3 at that time. Mainly there were Muslim brown people, there were Hindu brown people, and that was it really. But all of us, we had one identity with a P word. Yes? Mm-hmm. When we were grown up in school, it was extensively used in a form of abuse, insult. Just like the N word has been used for many centuries. And we come away from all that because now so many new diversities have arrived in the city. The Eastern Europeans came, and each one of them have a different dynamic, don't they? So this is where the adapt to change comes in, Priya. Now, Priya, you know more than Tarek does because you've been eating and living this topic that I'm talking about from the community center. Just tell everybody how long you've been there.
Just over 40 years.
40 years. So you joined almost 10 years after, around there.
81.
81. And what we say, Priya, is part of the furniture there. Yes? And now tell everybody what part of the world you came from.
Ceylon, now known as Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka. And in Leicester, how many Sri Lankans are there?
The population, the Sri Lankan population has grown over the last decade or more. So we've now, I think, got about 1,500 people.
1,500. How many Bangladesh people in Leicester, Tarek?
I don't know, but I think quite a lot. I think.
That's a diplomatic answer.
Yeah.
We need numbers. Everything today, Tarek, is to do with data. Data is king, yeah? Data is the new boss.
I can do an estimate. Just
Go on.
Yeah. If we count the Bengali mosques, so we've got 2. If you say Bangladesh as well, overall, I think there'll be at least 1,000 families, maybe more. No, it'll be more actually.
Shall we help him out there, Priya?
Actually,
the figure is approximately 12,122.
12,000 Bangladeshis?
Approximately.
Yeah, approximately, yeah. Right. Now, the reason we talk about this, all of you listening in right now, is that we need to know data of who's in our city. When we talk about diversity, we need numbers, right? Only then we can know how we can deal with them all, right? Here on the radio, we are having as many diversities coming here to talk to us. And I ask them these questions, and they themselves don't know the answer. But one clever guy, Mo Bashir, you know him, Moj?
I think I'll probably know him by face.
He's from the Dar es Salaam mosque.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? And he came and let me in on this. And he's good man. Definitely one guy we need in our network. So definitely, what is your view on the diversity pipeline?
I think anything is worth engaging in that's going to make a difference. Going back to the 3 E's, our mission at Highfield Centre is about enhancing lives, empowering communities, and enterprise for all. That last E came about as a result of the work we did with local businesses through Highfields Business Association that Zed, you were part of as well.
That's right, yeah.
And one of the key learnings for me was when Kofi Annan, the ex-UN Secretary General, said at a conference at Davos in Switzerland that the challenge for businesses working in disadvantaged communities is to make connections with those communities to help both the businesses but also those communities. And I think that's something we have to really work on, because not all businesses in areas like Greater Highfields make those connections on a regular and ongoing basis, as opposed to the occasional annual, donation at times like this during the Ramadan period. So we need to get those businesses connected up as a matter of course with local community groups, local schools, etc., and help to make those positive changes in our lives.
That is I can't say anything that critical on that, what he has just mentioned, because awareness and those connections at grassroots. We're not talking about now multinational businesses. We're not talking about conglomerates. So how it happens is that the conglomerate businesses like Jaguar, Land Rover, right? They will say, right, as part of our CSR, we'll give the money to them, one organization. Then that organization filters the money down, right? But we have thousands of charities and organizations, community organizations, they're not getting that support. So what we are saying is that you're on the ground, Tarek's on the ground, and you have a better handle on what needs to be done in the community. So we bring back that collective support structure in the community, regardless of the 4 C's, the caste, color, creed, culture, and we work around that and we go out and support them. And if these 20 organizations we start with are supported by not the conglomerates, by the smaller businesses. Now, when I say support, I'm saying to a business, even if you give £50, that's the start. And if each one of these 20 organizations have got 10 businesses under them, you are building a family, aren't you? So this is what the diversity pipeline is all about. And then, with the pipe, Tarek, what do you do with the pipe? You can extend it as long as you want, can't you?
Absolutely, absolutely.
We start with 20, inshallah. If God is pleased with us, we can extend that, can't we?
Not only extend it, but enlarge it as well. The pipe network, you can start with the 10 or 20 organizations you talked about, but you can also grow into the 30 and 40 and 50 organizations.
Exactly. And definitely, I would welcome your organization to join that initiative, because we have known each other for quite some time and we are on the same path of community development, and we can really work at this and make it happen. And Tarek, you yourself are working extremely hard with the charity sector, right? And
in terms of community work, I'm just overall, I'm just an apprentice. I'm learning from the likes of yourself and Priya and so on, in that sense, so I'm...
No, he's a modest. He's a modest guy.
Catch up on.
Priya, have you seen him in action when he's doing his community work? He was sat here on this chair where I'm sitting, and he was talking to the world to raise funds for the many projects that his charity organization have embarked upon, and I've seen them grow from zero to hero. And they are probably Leicester's leading charity organizations in terms of their distribution network, from Afghanistan to Syria to so many countries that they have donated to. And joining them this year has been, and last year, was the Riders of Sham. Are you familiar with them?
Not really, no.
Priya, we need to join you for 2 cups of tea when I come over, not 1, right? The Riders of Sham, they are one of Leicester's leading champions. They do a bike ride every year, Priya, right? And they raise, last year they topped 280,000. And I was jesting with them, telling them, you got a top 275 is what we raised at for the Leicester Children's Hospital here at the radio. And they took that on and they smashed us. And that money, then they filter it to different organizations each year, and they're getting stronger and stronger. So these group of young lads, and there is some experienced riders, over 40, they go out and they ride. Last year they rode to Scotland, right? And so on. So this year, I think they are going to, do you know where they're going, Tariq?
They're going to be
in August,
riding to, I believe,
Holland or Germany.
Yeah, or France, was it? Sorry,
yeah.
My
Now,
memory's a bit...
he's a charity organization. He's one of the recipients of their good charity work they're doing. Is that right?
So Riders of Sham will be working with One Nation this year. One Nation and Help the Homeless. And I believe there may be one more organization they're working with. I think Revive Darul Arqam as well. They're working with...
So that is one community champion organization who are supporting 3 other community organizations. Isn't that beautiful, Priya?
That's excellent. Yeah.
Right? And then they deliver initiatives.
Yeah.
So that is what the pipeline of diversity is all about. The diversity pipeline is all about supporting each other. So it's incredible, Priya. So today, I've demonstrated to you that there's so much that needs to be known, right? But if we sit in our own little bubble, our own little area, we will not be able to do this task and this work, right?
I mean, this project, Fabel, would not have come about if the clothing companies and the trade unions had not made a decision that, yes, we will make a financial contribution to change the situation, at least begin to show what's possible when that kind of information, advice and support is provided for garment workers to improve their lives. And that kind of approach is what we want from local companies as well. You know, the clothing brands and the trade unions recognized that they couldn't do the job themselves, and they funded us to set up this project, Fabel. In a similar way, we'd love to see some of the companies here in Leicester, particularly those located in the Great Highfields area, but not exclusively, to be able to say, yeah, we would want to see a difference in the lives of young people, in the lives of our adults, or in the lives of our elders groups. And, you know, I'd look forward to hearing and seeing those kinds of connections being made on a regular and ongoing basis.
That is absolutely wonderful. Now, when I'm talking about the Highfield, we still call it the Highfield Community Centre, but if you go there now, the sign is HCC.
HC.
Yeah?
Centre.
Highfield Centre now. Don't worry too much about it. You can keep calling it Highfield Community Centre, because if you are from 1974 era, that's okay. But the new sheriff in town is called HC, Highfield Centre. And another thing you don't need to worry about it, when you go there, you look for Priya, you'll find him, right? He's on every wall at the HC when you go there. And I'm definitely going to go there and have a good natter with him to see what we can do collectively with using his experience for some of the other projects that we are embarking upon in the city, all to do with creativity of opportunity for our people, our young people. And one particular young chap has joined us, and he said, look, I want to take 5, maybe 10 homeless chaps. I want to mentor them, not only give them some living space, and then I want to teach them some digital skills, right? And that is unbelievable.
Brilliant.
Right? And that is his mission. He says, I want to do that, right? And I said, wow. And then there's another group here. They're called the Green Guardians. Are you familiar with them, Priya?
I've heard about something to do with Green Guardians, but not.
Have you heard about them?
But not here in Leicester.
Tarek, come on, guys. Get your book and pen out again, right? And write it down, the work that the Green Guardians are doing. This is one for you, Priya. 2 professional young girls. One is in the counseling business. That's her profession. She counsels on domestic violence. And another one is a teacher. They come out with their children and they do litter picking on Sunday. They go to different areas. How do you think we felt when we saw them here on Sunday? And there were not 2 of them. Behind them was another 15. And you look out from the window and you see them picking litter. And when you do a little zoom with your camera on your phone, and you see they're picking up cigarette stubs from the pavement and they're putting it in their black bags. And they've got the gloves on, they've got the orange visors on. Priya, how many professional people do you know that will take that task on?
Yeah, it's sad. We've got a situation where at the rear of the centre, we're developing a rare fruit and herb garden with support from Leicester Friends of the Earth. Now, that garden is being looked after by the children from Daisy's childcare that meets the preschool that meets at Highfield Centre. So, you know, we want to see those kinds of opportunities right across the area. So, where there are spaces for growing fruit trees, fruit shrubs, herbs, etc., that people are able to convert that rather than just simply seeing it as wasteland which invites more rubbish to be tipped onto it and become eyesores. So it'd be good to see how we can green more of this densely populated area of Highfields.
Of course, people take it for granted, Tariq, that the council truck or the council sweepers will come and clean up and they get paid for it. It's not my job. And it is sad that that is the mindset that we have to change now. If you go to a country like Singapore, Tariq, can you get away with throwing chewing gum on the floor?
No, I've heard the cleanest country on earth.
And you put chewing gum down, Priya, you're going to get done for it.
Oh, absolutely. Not just chewing gum, spitting. Or,
That's right. And that's a kind of mindset we need to develop in this. It's a challenge, because it's not the easiest thing to do, but it is. I am absolutely gobsmacked that two professional girls have taken that task on, Tariq, and you and I have worked in the charity sector, and we haven't seen anything like that, have we?
Yeah. No, of course. I think as I said, that once people start engaging and everybody starts doing their bit, it will only sort of encourage others to start doing their bit as well in however they can. So
the Green Guardians are going to be part of this diversity pipeline, right? Because we have a lot to learn from them as to what their ethics are, what their values are, that they care. And I asked Amina, what can we do to prevent this happening in the first place? And she says, well, straight away, we've got to have a water bottle. So we don't use a PET bottle. So that we prevent litter happening. Mm-hmm. So when they're doing their work, they can see where the most of the litter is coming from.
Yeah.
And they've given us some proposals as to how we can help cure that in this vicinity, this block of where we are sitting. There's this block and there's that block. And they've told us, look, if you do this, you can deal with this, right? And you can't aggressively tell somebody not to litter because you'll end up in a fight. We live in that society where you can't tell anybody anything. We have to do it with some psychology, don't we?
Education at an early age helps.
Now, we did some interviews. The locals who live here, passing by, I stopped them and I asked them, and they said, yeah, they're doing wonderful job. Well done. And they live here. Now, Tariq, wouldn't it have been beautiful if they joined in? It's their street.
Of course.
It's not Amna doesn't live around here.
Yeah. I think, as people start doing things, then people can see people can see the example and then people can get the opportunity to join in. Sometimes I think people need a reminder as well.
Yeah. So I think we touched on the textiles. We've talked about our Highfield Community Centre. We've talked about diversity. And there's so much to do, that how we can collectively do some cross-networking with other parts of the city.
Yeah.
You and I, Priya, can share the collective experience, the organic garden, across the other side. Now, we had a guest here on Zoom. His name was Alex Smith. And the program was called Who is Alex Smith? So he was a kind of a zero to hero that I managed to track down, and we did some interviews with him. And we told him about the Z tax, the zakat, explained to him the merits of it. And you know what he turned around and said? He said, I like that idea. I'm going to pay the 2.5% profit on one particular project I'm doing in my business, and I'll give that for the organic garden at a school we are building in Uganda. As part of the Once Upon a Time 50 years ago initiative, we've taken on the challenge to do 50 projects in Uganda. And your colleague Safraz is doing some work there in Uganda. And joining him with us. So some of the 5 projects he will do can be part of the 50. So you see, 50 years ago, we were expelled. 50 years later, we go back and we deliver 50 projects, right? This is an act of humanity, isn't it? That we go back there, we tell the story to the young primary school students who don't have a clue what happened 50 years ago, the atrocities that were committed after we left. We were lucky, Priya. We came on a plane, right? Unlike the refugees who are coming on the boats and drowning, right? And those refugees that are going to be sent back to another third world country. I don't know what they're going to do with them, but that's another story for another day, Priya, right? But we came here on a plane. We were the lucky ones. And after we left, preceding 10 years, almost 480,000 people living in Uganda were killed. They were in camps. They were electrocuted. They lost their lives. And that was a genocide that people don't talk about. So we were the lucky ones that Idi Amin took us out.
I think across the globe, you'll be aware of huge upheavals caused by, government of various persuasions, and my home country has been subjected to those kinds of traumas from post-independence days. Sri Lanka became independent in 1948, but the government of that day changed the constitution so many times, made one language the official language, and relegated the other languages to, very junior positions. And that was the beginning of a process that led to a 25-year civil war. And in 2009, the massacre of over 100,000 people, innocent people, in the north of the country. Now that caused people to flee in boats and so on, all across the globe. We've seen much more recent conflicts in Libya, Iraq, Syria, and so on, Afghanistan. That's given rise to the flooding of people away from those homelands. And now we find ourselves in a situation where this government is talking about making a country which has questionable status in terms of its human rights policies and conduct as a kind of a base for sorting out who are valid claimants for refugee status and so on.
The word refugee has been abused because there are now definitions of refugees, right? That on the one hand, you are happy to take in 100,000 refugees from Ukraine. On the other hand, you are sending these refugees away, single men, to another country which has a history of genocide, which has a history of dissidents being slaughtered in another country, and is frightening. You won't appreciate it. If any of you ever go to these countries and you see their squalid conditions on YouTube, you'll see the good parts. But you leave the city and you see the reality.
Of course. I think I read a bit about what the government is sort of proposing to do with the refugees, and it almost sounds like they're going to be looking to create almost like a prison camp abroad. It doesn't sound very any good at all, really. It's very, very concerning, especially if refugees are going to be pushed back into a country, like you said, who don't have, who have a history of genocide and so on. I can only, you can only think of the worst, really.
Priya, how about we bring Richard in on this one? Richard, are you listening?
Yeah, I'm listening, yes.
Yeah.
Very attentively. I'm loving the show. Honestly, there's some gems come out the show.
Your sound is not too clear at all, We're struggling to hear you, and we are frightened as to what our listeners are going to hear on FM. So
I'm hoping that's a little bit clearer.
No, it's not at all. It's not at all clear. There's some tech issues going on there. Yeah, Tarek, you can see it's a struggle.
It's a bit muffled, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know why it's muffled, Richard. What's going on? So we, just to remind all our
I've
listeners,
taken it out and put it back in. Hopefully it's better.
is it better, Priya?
Not really.
Not really. Even Priya is doing better on the mic, Richard. So, Richard, you got to do some drastic measures, and one of them I'm going to recommend to you is stay on the Zoom for your picture and call us on the phone. That would work great. Nobody will know, Richard. I'm not going to tell anyone that you called and you were not on the Zoom. So, Zoom and FM don't get on very well.
Okay.
So, it's an issue. So, did you know, guys, that when we came from Uganda, they were nearly sending us to the Solomon Islands, right? Anyone know where's the Solomon Islands?
I've heard of it, but I don't know.
Pacific.
And they wanted to send us there. Now, you know how the country Australia was conceived. Well, we have a call. Yes.
And it's Ricky again. How's that for sound?
Yeah, that's much better, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot better.
Yeah.
Brilliant. What I was saying is I've been loving the show. Honestly, there's some great gems come out of the show, especially the 3 E's and the 3 D's, how they're linked together. And everything you guys have been saying has been resonating really well. There's a massive bit of good community action that's taking place in Leicester. And the only best thing we can do is continue that work going forward.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you're quite familiar now, the textile situation that exploded in the city over the last 2 years. And
Once upon a time, my parents came to this country as migrants from Fiji, and I think one of the first places my mum worked at, if you still remember, it was Richard Roberts, which is not too far from the bus station in town. But massive names such as those have disappeared off the big brands and big textile industries. CNA, Richard Roberts, and a lot in manufacturing have disappeared over the years.
That's a bit of homework here for Tarek to map out the history of textiles in the city. And I think it'd be great, to set up a little exhibition for Tarek with all the history of all our textile companies and generally the old industrial apparatus in the city. And then he can be standing there and talking to people directly to bringing them awareness. And what do you think, Priya? As I told you, we are working. We're not doing radio we are doing more than that.
Yeah, the project is going to be formally launched at an event at Highfield Centre on Sunday 29th of May, and we certainly want you to be there, Zed, as well. And we're going to have various of the chief executive of some of the clothing brands who's funding us there. The general secretary of some of the trade unions are funding us there. And it'll be an occasion where families of garment workers can come and find out more about the service that's offered and the kind of links to other things that can be provided, whether that's in relation to adult learning, whether it's in relation to services for the young people, children and young people, as well as things like the welfare rights and other advice services that's going to be available. So we've got that event coming up. We've got our Highfields Festival coming up in June, the last Saturday in June, I think it's the 25th. And again, that's going to be hopefully, it'll be the first time we're going to be able to have a large number of people gathered again after this long period of restrictions linked to the pandemic that we've all been subject to. So
you sounds like you guys are doing a lot of catch-up. The 2 years that we've lost in the pandemic, you certainly are catching up fast.
Yeah, also...
Tarek, go on.
Yeah, sorry. So with these events now, Amzad, you know how you mentioned that we need to be diverse and engage with everybody. These events will allow that because in these sort of events, we'll have various organizations from all over the city offering different types of services and support. And this is where people will be able to come in and connect with those organizations and learn about what support's available for them and also learn about what they can join. Like, I think in our events, we'd love to invite, many organizations as possible for them to come and give them the opportunity also to have like a stall space as well to, engage with the communities and the people and let them know about, what they're doing as well.
So certainly, Priya, one of the challenges that we have here at the radio is to do the cross-network between other areas in the city, that we have to bring the other parts of Leicester which are not even aware of the Highfield Community Centre, right? They have to come over here, and likewise, we have to do the same to go visit them. So you know all the areas that I'm referring to, which is we are in the inner city, and they are slightly at the border on the outer city. So then after that comes the county. But if we can fix the city, then we'll go teach the county what they have to do. What do you think about
I had an
Richard?
idea.
Yes, go on.
I had an idea. This links in with your anagrams as well, in terms of the 3Ds and 3Es. But I think for all this success to happen as well, because I think we're in a privileged position at the moment. I get to learn about this from yourselves, and I know that the event on the 29th is taking place. But I think a lot of these events can't happen without possibly 3Fs. And I think I won't make you guess, because I just made that up. But I think the 3Fs, we need friends, we need family, and we need founders. Because without the friends and family to kind of support these events and for us to share this information for them to attend, they wouldn't work as well. But also with the founders of these organizations and CEOs and heads of these organizations, getting them involved to support these initiatives means they flourish more over time. We can share the news either via our social media, they can share organically with theirs. We can collectively have a single voice. Rather than it being each individual community having a voice, we can have a collective voice of just one group of friends, one collective
wonderful.
family in the
Now,
city.
as I always keep saying, that we're all working right now. Yeah, we have on the table here, and yourself, Richard, we have 3 diversities here already.
Yeah.
And we have so many more to engage with. And if we see the power of us all working together, is there blessings in that, Tarek?
If we have the time, I have a short game in mind.
Game on radio? We don't do games here.
We don't do games?
We're on radio. We're a serious radio station here, right?
In which case, it's not a game. I set a challenge based on what you know of the city and based on what the individuals in the studio, Tarek and Priya, know of the city. If you could name one culture or one diversity from within the city, ranging from A to Z. Like if I say I know within A, I know Arabs. I have Arab friends.
No, Arabs. Is that a diversity? Would you say that?
I think you got to be a bit more specific in terms of countries of origin.
Okay, so I'd say African.
No,
that's a continent.
That's a continent.
Okay, I'd say I know people from.
Well, I would say A is an easy one.
So I have an Argentinian friend.
Below that, you can write down Afghanistan. That's the most common one.
Algeria.
I do have Afghanistani friends as well.
That's right. So that is interesting because now you do the drop downs. You can see 4, 5 different organizations. Yes.
Just on that point, you mentioned the Race Equality Centre that's now located at Highfield Centre. They are putting on an event on 6th of May, I think it is, in terms of the Racial Minority Assembly. This is a umbrella group of 130 plus community groups, ranging from the Afghan group, Cameroonian group, Zimbabwean, and so on. And it's for them to come in and find out about various funding opportunities. So there's going to be somebody from, the National Lottery. There's going to be somebody from the Lloyds Bank Foundation. And we will also be there to talk about the services that are available at Highfield Centre. So
that's another one to attend, yeah?
Yeah, that's Friday.
6th of May.
Friday, 6th of May. And if you contact the Race Equality Centre, TREC, at Highfield Centre, I'm sure they will give you further details about times and so on. And it's for groups of different origins, like I was mentioning the Cameroon, Zimbabwean, Afghan societies and so on, who've now settled in Leicester to come along and find out a little bit more about what's happening and how they can be supported to develop. To give you one example, we've got the Eritrean community group who are part of that assembly, and they, through TREC, approached us to access our are building for some of their supplementary classes. Now, through that connection, they've also come on to book the sports hall for some events, their Independence Day celebration, and one of their members of their group has joined the part-time youth work training course we are running currently. So he can then get a qualification to be employed as a youth worker. So these are the kind of connections that, you know, you and I and Tarek will know of, but those more recently arrived groups in the city will not be aware of. So it's a wonderful opportunity.
This is absolutely music to my ears, as they say, Tariq, right? So this is the power of networking, and we got to work together. And we, you know that our charity mantra is together everyone achieves more success. Is that right, Tariq?
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely.
Yeah. And when we do this, and as Richard has pointed out, just the letter A denotes people from 4 different countries, from Argentina to Afghanistan to Algeria, and right across to the letter Z, there will be countries. Now, don't think that Z, there's nothing there for Z. There's so many people here from Zambia.
Friends from Zambia,
and from Zimbabwe, right?
Exactly.
So we have the world in Leicester, literally. So our work, we'll assign this work to Richard, because he's a techie. That he has to do the drop downs of the A to Z of all the diverse countries that are residing in Leicester, and then we can add some data to that, and we can then know where we stand. And Richard, that's your homework for some of these events. We'd like to put that on an A1 chart on the wall, so people come along, say, "Wow, I did not know that." Yes, Tariq?
Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted.
Now, all of us here don't know either. We ask these questions and we don't know the answers, do we? Mm-hmm. So if we create this awareness, then we're all going to be better for it. And we've got only 10 minutes left, Tariq, for this program. And textiles is something that we've talked about. And thereafter, I shall connect with all the people that I know in textiles who are here or who were here and they're no longer here, and get their feedbacks.
Yeah, that'd be really good. And I think Tariq has shared a couple of the examples of the positive changes they've been able to make since FabL was set up. But I wonder if we got 2 minutes, if you can just say briefly about the individual who was dismissed during the lockdown period.
Yeah, so another success we had was there was a individual person that was unfairly dismissed. He felt sick due to his diabetes, took some time off work. And for whatever reason, he wasn't able to get a sick note from the doctors, which his employer then just decided that within a week of him being off work, told him that you've been dismissed and we've replaced you. And this gentleman was, in terms of health condition, he was quite senior. And for him, he was really distraught. He's saying that, look, I've worked, in this country for many years, and now, I'm, reaching that senior age. All I want is a job. I was happy at the work, but I just felt like I've just been dismissed and I've got no power. So we got involved with the help of the brands, and then with the advice and guidance from the unions, we managed to actually organize our first sort of
mediation.
Mediation process, which has not happened in the garment industry for many, many years. I've been told that there's not been unions involved in the garment industry going back 2-3 decades, maybe. So it was a massive achievement. So we actually sat in a room, okay, and which then resulted within the during the meeting, the worker was offered his job back. They said that, listen, we all want to work together. So the factory owner was complying as well, and everybody was working together, and everybody decided unanimously that, look, we all want to work together. We want to bring about positive change. Whatever's happened, no problem. We're going to look into it to make sure it doesn't happen in the future again. But for now, please have the roll back and start again, soon as you're ready.
Of course, Richard, were you aware at all about the work that these guys are doing in Leicester?
Honestly, I've learned so much about the work they're doing, and I'm going to be following up on checking out their social media feed and website, because I think the work they're doing is amazing. It's fascinating to learn more about everything they're doing. Everything they've said so far, it tugged at the heartstrings for them to have got involved and assisted the gentleman as well. It would have been life-changing for him, just because when you don't know where to turn, when you don't know who you can get support from, organisations like yourself are a bit of a godsend.
That is absolutely wonderful. You see the power of awareness, Priya?
It's really.
It's what you were saying, Zed, as well. Back in the 70s, you had one guy who could fill in the forms, but even still, people don't know where they can turn to support for an answer and guidance.
Richard, you actually got it right on point. So how's that mentioned earlier at the beginning that back in the 70s, people were looking to go to get form filling help. This is still happening right now.
But now a lot of these forms are digital as well.
On top of that, to make it even more difficult, so the people who are coming into the new to the country with language barriers and so on, not only are they facing language barriers, now they're facing in digital skill barriers.
Digital barrier.
Yeah, like a digital barrier as well.
And to address that point, we have been successful in a funding application to the lab for what's called the Digital Poverty Program. So from next month, we're going to be starting a series of sessions for both young people and adults and elders to be able to, who currently don't have access to internet or the machinery to connect, the computers or laptops to connect, to drop in and be supported by somebody to be able to get on the net and do some of the essential work that now is only possible through the internet. So that's something to look out for, and we'll be putting up some posters and flyers through our social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter.
Of course, you see, what they're talking about is like the digital hub, right? Which we think that there should be a digital hub affiliated in every corner, accessible in the city. So if you're doing it in Highfields and somebody is living in New Parks, then they need to go to one right next door.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you got to understand that people from Narborough or from Ayers, Monsell and Northfields, they don't have access to catch a bus or come here, but if they can walk down to the park, and this is for one reason we've said that every single park should be redefined, right? These are parks of 200 years ago, and today they need to be having some level of amenity. So you'll remember the one at Spinney Hill Park where the guys used to sit there playing cards in retirement, and you see that when you go there, it smells of urine. Why? Because it's same old. It's never been uplifted. Now, if you was to build a state-of-the-art wooden structure, conservation compliant, solar compliant, and you made it look good, people will have more respect for it, won't they?
Yeah, of course.
And you give ownership of it to the community, so that every member in the community has got 10 pence invested in there. Do you think that they will abuse it then?
No, because then everybody will feel close to it and have that ownership.
Yeah, and you go and create that ownership structure. Until we start creating that ownership structure, we will not develop the love for our spaces. Our green spaces are absolutely important to develop our children from an early foundation, that they go there and enjoy those spaces and use them to the full. Now, when we came here, we used the park for sliding in the snow, coming down as a winter fun day out. But right now, all these spaces have got to be absolutely redefined. I spoke to the councillor, Pyara Singh. Claire, are you familiar with that name?
Yeah.
And this is a meeting we're going to pick up on. If you'd like to join us, you're free to do so from your organization to add value to the whole project. And we have to achieve this collectively. So all of you listening in, as I say all the time, engage with your councillors, get to know who they are. There are 54 of them in Leicester. At least get to know who 20 of them are by name, right? By definition. and then you can move forward. Otherwise, no change is going to happen if you are left ignorant and if you don't know and you don't care. Sometimes, if you don't know, you develop this attitude of, I don't care. So, Richard, what do you think?
I think it is great. Ignorance is not bliss. Knowledge is power, and applied knowledge is even better.
Yes?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we all are going to be by our actions, right? When somebody will ask me, do you know Tariq Islam? I said, no, I don't know Tariq Islam, but I do know what he stands for, and I do know the actions that he has implemented in his time that I've known him. So I know his name. I don't know nothing more about him, but I know all the good work that he's done. So that is how I have to gauge him, for his actions, not for anything else. And this is the message to all of you listening in right now, that all of us are capable, all of us can make a difference. Let's enjoy this community that Radio Leicester have come forward with. They've taken that initiative to say, let's find all the nominations. You must know some people, Tariq, that you'd like to nominate. Priya?
Of course. Yeah.
You would like some people to be nominated. Of course, I'd like to nominate you, but you're just too modest. You like to stay in the background, right? And Richard, that, Priya, 40 years of community development officer, CDO, and you are a CDO.
Zed, I don't know if you know, so myself, I actually, in terms of my community work and stuff and all the skill set and stuff, I actually started volunteering at Highfield Centre even before One Nation was formed. So I was actually a service user myself.
So Priya now, in 40 years, he's dealt with the fathers, he's dealt with the children, and now is dealing with the grandchildren.
Yeah,
right?
Literally.
Is that
That's
true?
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the great thing about having been able to stay at Highfield Centre for this 40 years plus is that I've been able to see youngsters like Tariq come through the ranks of our youth club and so on.
Yeah.
And become engaged with the centre, and now he's the lead worker on this new project. So
I just get this feeling in me that Tariq is going to be the new Priya at Highfields. I feel that positive energy.
I don't know if I can ever fill
40 years. You got to do. You got to do
it's-
40 years.
I don't think that
Now,
would be possible
guys, Jazakallah khair for joining us on behalf of all of us here.